Welcome, everyone, to the June 5th meeting of the Columbia Board of Zoning Appeals. I'm Catherine Fenner, Chair for the board, and will be serving as chair for today's meeting. At this time, I would like to introduce the other members of the board. We have Colton Driver, Sherrod Duval, and then coming from the other direction, Jonathan Bang, Sydney Lanham, and Davis Whittle. I would also like to introduce the staff that assists the boarding. I would like to introduce the staff that assists the board. Andrew Livengood, Board of Zoning, Zoning Administrator, Erica Hyen, Deputy Zoning Administrator, and Madeline Houghton over here. Yay. She's amazing, Land Use Board Coordinator. Board is charged with hearing applications for special exceptions, variances, and administrative appeals. All testimony is recorded for the record, and anyone wishing to speak will need to be sworn in and come to the podium to speak. No testimony can be taken from the floor. When you come to the podium, state your name and please speak clearly into the microphone because this meeting is being recorded. Applicants with cases before the board are allotted a presentation time of 10 minutes. This time also includes all persons presenting information on behalf of the applicant. This time limit does not include any questions asked by the board or staff regarding the case. Any member of the public may address the board in intervals of 3 minutes or 5 minutes if by a spokesperson for an established body or group of 3 or more. The applicant then has 5 minutes for rebuttal. The board reserves the right to amend these limits on a case-by-case basis. Those of you who plan to speak must be sworn. If you are here as an applicant or to speak in any case, please stand at this time and raise your right hand. Do you affirm or attest that the testimony you give today will be the truth and nothing but the truth? Thank you very much. At this time, I will turn the meeting over to Mr. Livengood.
Good afternoon. So first I will read the consent agenda, and we just have 2 items on the consent agenda. Sorry, let me move that a little bit further away. The first item is the May 2025 minutes. And the second item is case number 2025-0012-V, which is 907 821 Corolla Avenue. And this is a variance to the maximum fence height standard within the front yard setback. And this is for the soccer fields and other athletic fields for Columbia College off of Corolla Avenue. And I'll just continue through these slides, and that does conclude our consent agenda. Does a member of the board or the audience wish to have any of the items on the consent agenda removed for further discussion?
I don't see anybody. I see none. All right. Is there a motion to approve the minutes in the consent agenda?
I motion to approve the minutes in the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All right. There's a motion and a second. All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. I think that's everybody. All right. All right. Motion approved.
Sure.
All right. So if you're here for the consent items, you may leave. We will now proceed with the regular agenda.
Yeah, so the first item on the consent agenda, and actually we do have 2 cases that are related, but the first item on the consent agenda is a variance, 2025-006-V, which is 1801 Smith Street. And it's a variance to the tree density and tree canopy retention standards. Just to give you a little bit of a brief overview, the applicant is requesting a variance to, again, the tree density and tree canopy retention standards for a development that occupies about 13.6 acres. And it had been under development for a truck parking lot. Uses have shifted a little bit. And there are some landscaping requirements in general. And so these requirements, and I do have our land development planner here to explain if you have questions, but one of them is a to maintain a certain tree canopy on the site, and also is a tree density requirement, and they kind of go hand in hand. And so in the original development, there was an area of about 1.85 acres that was reserved, and so this request is to waive that requirement, which would then tie into the next case on the agenda, which is a request to do alternative parking surface. And likewise, there is a related map amendment. If the map amendment to rezone from light industrial to heavy industrial goes through, there's a proposed expansion of a business that is currently unincorporated onto this property. If it is not approved for the rezoning, then it might become a satellite parking lot for that use or likewise.
I'm sorry, could you explain what you just said again one more time?
Sure. So there is, there's also a pending zoning request, which would go to the planning commission and then city council.
Not us.
Yeah, not you, correct. And, but the request is to go from light industrial to heavy industrial.
Okay, but that's not before us today.
No, that's not
Okay.
before you today.
Okay,
but,
thanks.
Yeah. And then I would say that there's also, traditionally, when there are buildings being constructed, landscape requirements are required to be installed before we issue a certificate of occupancy. And in this case, the project has been kind of on a continual ongoing process. A required landscape buffer between this property and the residential properties to the west. If I can get this to advance. So if you see it kind of on the southwest of the property, that has not yet been installed. And so I did want to mention that staff is asking that should you be inclined to approve the request, that you do consider some conditions just to put a time frame on when those buffer yard plantings will be put in place.
I'm sorry, I'm still not following all of
So,
this.
so there's a requirement to place a buffer of plantings between an industrial use and residential uses.
Over by
How-
Hattie
how
Gibson
big-
Road?
If you see, yeah, Hattie Gibson Road,
Okay.
yeah, for example, and that has not yet been planted.
How big is the buffer?
30 feet.
Yeah, 30 feet for the record, yeah.
Okay, thanks. I'm sorry, just for the record, can you state your name, because we know who you are, but I,
Sure, I'm Scott Holder, the land development planner.
thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Okay. All right,
Yeah, the applicant is here, and I'm
right.
sure we'll answer any questions you have.
okay. If you could come forward and state your name.
Hey, I'm George McCutcheon, and appreciate y'all's attention today. Did you want me to give these to you to distribute? Yeah, thank you. So I do want to point out that we have put in the landscape buffer on Smith Street that's directly above the words Smith Street to the right of that, with that residential. And we have constructed the 6-foot privacy fence all the way down what would parallel Hattie Gibson and go all the way out to Shop Road. So we have done that, and neighbors appreciated that. We do still need to finish the landscape buffer, which we've been trying to get the project completely done because there's some topography issues where we're bringing in dirt to.
Madeline, I just lost my screen. Sorry. I'm assuming somebody knows how to deal with this. Sure. Thank you. Oh, it's back. It's back. No, well, I don't care. I've got 37, 34 on this one. Is it got enough? Yeah, we're good. Okay, good. Okay, I'm sorry. Go back, I'm so sorry. I hit something and lost my whole
No problem.
discussion.
And I think these are being distributed, so it'll be good to see those. But the gist of it is we've got a business that's at 1703 Atlas Road, and you can see those buildings that are all there where they were added on to several times. The business is called Suncoast Resources, and before that, the name of it was Southern Lubricants. And they want to grow here in Columbia. They've spent the last 8 months looking for another property and can't find anything, and they'd like to stay where they are. But in order to grow, they need more land, and so the only land that we have is directly behind them. We did actually reach out to the neighbor that owns about 2.5 acres that's wooded there, and they didn't want to sell. So that wasn't a possibility. So, got a growing business. I think y'all have seen the application for the special exception and the variance, so you may have some background. One of the things you'll see there that we've done, one of your former colleagues suggested, John Gregory, said, well, you need a buffer. So one of the lines you'll see there is a cedar tree buffer that we would plant on the property line that would go out. So that would be one other thing. And then the main thing is we've made a deal with the owners across Atlas Road to buy 7.5 acres and put that under a permanent conservation easement to replace this 1.85 acres. So that would be 4 times as much land that we would be replacing and putting in a permanent conservation easement across the street. So we thought we'd, have it like this, like we designed it. We are kind of being pushed into doing this, and we want to do it, want to help a business grow, but we realize that we have these trees there that unfortunately need to come down. One of the other things that was a potential concern was, if you'll notice where the line runs along the property line there's a huge City of Columbia sewer line there, 96-inch sewer line. And when the City of Columbia put that in, they didn't quite tamp the ground down like they were supposed to. So it created a little bit of a hump. And so the water that was draining off of it stopped in the corner of the woods, and we were worried that that might be considered a wetlands area. And so one of the things you've got there is we got from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers saying it was if it was a wetland, it was 0.2 of an acre, which is isolated, non-jurisdictional. We can do whatever we need to with it. So again, we think this is reasonable. It's good for the area. We think that we are trying to do the right thing by replacing and mitigating with 4 times as much land across the street, and hope we have your approval, but I'm open to any questions.
Just for clarification, the trees that you all are requesting to be moved according to this appeal are the trees that are inside the LI section here?
Yes, it'd be,
right?
Yes.
Because you're looking to turn all of this, I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but we're looking to turn all of this into a parking lot now, parking space.
Correct. The intent, we don't have any plans to build any buildings on any of it.
Right.
It would just be parking for automobiles and the trucks that support the Suncoast Resources. Correct.
Now, I also read in this proposal that you wanted to plant cedar trees, but I couldn't quite figure out where.
Okay, one of the
According to
handouts.
this map?
Yeah, one of the handouts should have a green line. I think it's the one, Yep, that's the one. Underneath your wrist.
I got it right here.
There we go. Yeah, yeah. So the green line would, because they're just leasing 4 acres, they're not leasing the whole site. So just to explain.
I'm sorry, so the green line is where there would be trees?
Correct, correct. They're not leasing the entire site. We've got other, as he said, landscaping requirements around the rest of it. But this would basically run through the site, following somewhat of the existing tree line and go out to our retention pond. Where that green line is.
I'm having a little trouble meshing what's on the screen here with the line,
Yeah, the
right? Right, okay.
one was maybe before and after we had
Right.
cut some of the
It comes up here.
property.
So what trees are you talking about taking out?
All of these.
You're taking out those trees
Right,
at the
we'll take
north,
out that,
the north side?
yes.
Oh,
We'll
okay.
take out that 1.85 acres.
All right, so on the section that you've got, the part, your mitigating part across Atlas Road, what's there now? It's trees.
Correct,
So you're just leaving the trees that are there?
right, and making sure they're never, the intent of this was to have trees that were never developed. So we're
Okay.
taking those trees and making sure they're 4 times as many trees that'll never be developed.
Okay.
I have a question. I forgot your name just that fast. Scott, when it comes to this special exception that is being requested, considering the amount of trees that need to be removed and that the new trees will be in a different place than where those trees were, and I'm imagining there's several reasons for that,
just leaving
including.
the trees.
No, I'm talking about the trees they're getting rid of. I'm talking about the trees they're getting rid of.
Okay, yeah.
According to this particular special exception, when it comes to getting rid of the 1.8 acres of trees that are there, what is that looking like in terms of Columbia's, tree ordinance when it comes to the planning commission? Like tree ordinance wise, what is that? What issue are they gonna run into there with planning? Or is there none at all?
Let me see if I'm following your question. So right now in the UDO, we have a canopy retention requirement that's based on the use or the proposed use. You have to retain a certain percentage, retain and/or replace.
Right.
If you cannot retain and you do not want to replace, that's why we're here in front of
Right.
you to seek a variance to that requirement.
Right, because what they're proposing does not replace. They're gonna put trees down, but it won't be that equivalent. And that's what the issue is, right? Well, one of the issues.
This is a new development that I was just informed of right before the meeting. It's not uncommon to have an environmental easement set aside to counter effect removal of tree canopy. We're going to have to study it a little bit more from a staff level to make sure that that is like a one-to-one equivalent. But for example, the lot that he is referring to across the street that he wants to purchase and retain that tree canopy. Depending on the use of the rest of that parcel, they could take out additional trees and still have that. It still might be a viable tree bank is what I'm trying to say.
Right. But you all need to do a little bit more research.
We have to do a little bit more research to make sure that that's going to be a viable option.
Gotcha. Okay, that answers my question. I'm
So-
sorry, you can.
Okay?
So wait, so now I'm concerned. You don't know the answer to whether or not this is okay.
The tree bank as a direct one-to-one replacement for the removal of these trees, I'm not confident right now.
You do not think that
But
that's, okay.
But the question before us would address that even if replacement is not possible, right?
Yes, if you grant the variance, then if he goes and gets the tree bank, that's just additional trees that we will save in the future.
Right. Because this is if we cannot retain or replace, we could still make the decision today.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's right. Thank you, I'm following. I got
And
it.
the idea is I'm trying to do a 4-for-1
I see.
placement.
I get it.
Well, sort of. Okay. Sort of, but actually what you're doing is simply saving the trees across the street, which might never be taken down at all.
Well, let's talk about it just a little bit. So this will be a separate tax map number. So the 141 acres that's over there, they can't use this 7.5 acres towards some allocation later. It'll be its own tax map number that has to stay in trees. Whereas, let's say it was developed and let's say the rough number is, call it just for simple purposes, 15%. So they would be able to clear all but 15% of that 7.5 acres as a separate tax map number. So we're just saying it's going to be 7.5 acres that's never touched, stays trees, stays green.
Assuming it's ever developed. Okay, all right.
Well, looking to be, it's available for sale now, so they're trying to
Okay, okay.
do something with it. So I'm trying to get that out of their 141 acres and protect it.
All right. Are there other board questions?
What, the property, so looking at the map here that's in front of us, that's on the screen above you,
Yes.
if we're looking at the right side of this image where the property with the warehouses on it are, it looks like maybe these 8 warehouses.
Right.
To the left of that, there's a buffer, and then there's a property to the right of that. Have you all been in communication with them about this?
Yes. I went there actually Memorial Day weekend, walked the neighborhood, handed out flyers, and talked to some people that I could find, but I put out, is that what you're asking?
I think it looks like the industrial, I see 18-wheelers over there on that side, on the top right-hand corner of the
Yeah,
image.
that's all part of Suncoast right now.
That's Suncoast
Yeah,
already?
that is
Okay.
Suncoast, yeah.
Got it,
They're
got it,
kind of
got it.
crammed, and we're going to, it's kind of a muddy lot right now, unfortunately. We're going to develop that, clean it up, make it like the back, have it be 6 inches of either gravel or crushed concrete so that it's much better. And then the other thing, just so y'all know, is what we're trying to do is also make sure there's no traffic on Smith Street. So we have 3 driveways. You can't see it on that image right there. All the traffic will still come directly through where you see those trucks and around each side of the building to only come straight out onto Atlas Road so that it is not anywhere else for Suncoast.
Interesting.
So can you walk me through why, okay, you're going to put crush stuff, which is pervious, which is great. I think
Yes,
that's wonderful,
yes.
wonderful stuff. Why can't you put a few trees out too?
So they need a total of 8 acres, and they've got where they are now is 4 acres, and what we're going to give them is 4 acres, and we also have to have our retention pond. So part of their 4 acres goes out to the property line as retention pond, and we'll have stuff out there. But they need to be contiguous and have their trucks, and so we don't have anywhere to go. I kind of wish we had before maybe put the patch of trees on the other end of the property, but at the time we did it, that's the way the design and the topography worked better. I'm not sure if I'm answering all of your question.
Just wondering why you couldn't sprinkle some trees in the parking lot.
Oh, great question. No, that's mentioned in here, is 18-wheelers. They need big turning radiuses. And so that's why we didn't keep any, it's the exact same reason we didn't keep any trees in there, because they'll run them over.
Knock
They're
them
not going to
down.
last, unfortunately. That would be misleading. It may start out that way, but I'm trying to do something maybe more permanent with the 7.5 acres. And again, we are going to have on where their property line is, or their leased area, we're going to resurvey it, and where you see the green line, plant the cedar trees. So there will be some trees replanted back on the property, not the same amount, and I hadn't even taken that into account. It's probably just 1/10 of an acre if you added it up, or maybe 2/10 of an acre of what it would end up being. So I didn't think that was as significant, but there will be some, but it'll be on the edge of their fence.
So there'll be a line of cedar trees where that green line is?
Yes.
And the 2 lots will be separated by those trees?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
And if I can add something real quick, there was a variance granted in 2023 to the interior area, interior parking area landscaping standards, which is why there's not trees inside the parking lot itself. Of course, there are these other requirements as well, and they all kind of interplay. And that is part of the reason why the tree bank is there as well.
Scott. So would cedar trees be the best choice for that function? Or, I mean, personally, I think hardwoods might be a better choice, but what?
We can do whatever y'all like.
Yeah, no, I'm just wondering, I'm just asking him what his advice would be on it.
It's actually not required to have separation or any kind of a screen between like uses.
Okay.
So it would be up to the applicant to
Okay.
provide whatever they want.
Okay, so whatever kind of trees you wanted to put, I mean, I don't know, I'm just,
like
what I was asking you is more from a landscaping
sycamores.
point of view. What would be some good trees to put there instead, or is that the best choice you can think of too?
There's too many factors that go into it, to the makeup of the soil,
Okay, all
how
right,
much irrigation.
all right, cool.
Sycamore trees are really neat. There's
Oh, yeah.
a little aside. After World War II, apparently America gave London lots of sycamore trees, and the reason is because their bark does the photosynthesis also in the wintertime when they don't have their leaves. And so that, if you're trying to,
Hey, how about some sycamore trees then? I like sycamores.
we can do
And then
sycamores.
good native trees.
Yeah, we can do that.
And not as allergenic as cedar trees.
Okay.
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 whatever, that's fine. It
Change
doesn't
that to
really
cedar
matter.
trees.
So,
I mean,
we're getting into the weeds
sycamores.
here.
Yeah.
Do we have any other board questions, applicant?
No questions. I do have a comment. I believe that falls in the Gills Creek watershed. And Suncoast is a petroleum company, right? I
Right.
mean, make sure that they're watching their runoff because
Yes.
SWIP will come in there and write a big ticket.
Yeah, no, we have 3 pages of document just on the environmental in the lease of what they're supposed to be doing and everything. So we're trying to, and to that point, the building that's second from the end, whereas right now they're on Bombay Drive and they're just out in the open. What they're going to do is they're going to go and put the tanks, and I say tanks, they're not what you think of as giant petroleum tanks. They really do lubricants that go in tractors and cars and stuff. And so those containers, is probably a better word, are going to be inside the building, and inside the building, we're building a perimeter. So if any one of the tanks had a leak in it, it would stay in that building. So, yeah, trying to be real careful.
Other questions from the board? Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this case?
I do have a few comments regarding the proposed conservation easement. I don't know if it necessarily matters, but the location is not within the city limits. So if that was something the city was going to be a party to, then it would make it a little bit more complicated because we would have to certainly coordinate with the county. And then the other matter, which is if you were inclined to make that a condition of your approval, if that was something you were considering, I'm not 100% positive that's something we could enforce. We would certainly look into it and coordinate with legal, et cetera. But
So the city would have to work with the county on that.
we definitely would have to work with the county on it. But so, I mean,
Is the
I don't know
applicant
if that's
aware of
something that you are considering or not, but
that? Is the applicant aware of that?
that the property where the easement is proposed is not in the city. Again, this was just proposed right before the meeting, and so I just looked up to see if it was in the city or not. So I think they're learning it right now as well.
We could, it'd be easier for us just to give the money to the city and y'all can put it wherever you want.
You know, and the,
$20,000, so.
what just to finish the thing about the easement, if that was a condition you were thinking about, you know, it could perhaps be, you know, if it is enforceable, then this is a condition, and if not, then, you know,
I'll do it.
return to the board or something along those lines. I'm really trying not to complicate things, but it is complicated, so.
Andrew, you said if it's not, then all I heard was something.
I apologize. So if this is, I think it is an enforceable condition, to be honest. But if we find, as we are researching it, that it is not an enforceable condition, then really what would happen is that it would then go back to the board for consideration.
Okay.
Okay, I
Okay,
see.
great. Other board questions? All right. Testimony is closed, and we will go into board discussion. What do y'all think?
It sounds like to me, this needs staff comments. So if it is approved, it have to be some.
Oh, yeah,
staff
definitely
comments.
staff comments, yeah.
I'm fine with it.
Sydney?
I think I'm fine with that.
Same here.
Yeah, and it seems like irrespective of the enforceability decision, that the applicant's trying to do things to offset, that some of which might be in good faith anyway. So I don't know that, in light of what we've heard, there's a necessity for putting that condition on it per se, but defer to the rest of the board on the landscaping timeline piece that staff asked about.
Gerard, what do you think?
I think I'm ready for a vote.
All right. All right, do I have a motion?
So a motion to accept the applicant's request,
Approve the applicant.
to approve the applicant's request subject to staff comments.
With the question of, do we want the, I forget what it's called, not the Cedar Tree Road, but like.
Mitigation.
The mitigation landscaping completion they mentioned.
Conservation
That's what I'm saying. I defer to you guys on the timing for that, but that was,
I would ask to amend your motion to add, subject to the, I'm not good with Robert's rules.
Environmental,
Yes, environmental mitigation.
I need to write this down.
Well, what would you,
Conservation easement would be the term that we
Yeah,
would
Okay.
conservation easement.
place the conservation easement? So would you like to restate your motion?
I would like to restate the motion. Lord have mercy.
Move that we approve.
What, you want to add something
no,
else?
while you're thinking, I'm saying, is it subject to the conservation easement? And like, what is the landscaping border that you guys were saying still needs completion? That's separate, right?
Right, so the condition, which I have spelled out in the case summary, it's, of course, in substantial conformance with the application and supporting materials submitted by the applicant. And, of course, shall conform to all relevant city development regulations. And then all the required landscaping and buffer yards approved for, I won't read the permit number, shall be installed by March 31st of 2026.
Okay.
And then if there's any new required landscaping and buffer yards that they shall be installed within 6 months of the issuance of a land disturbance permit, subject or unless approved to an extension by the land development planner, so Scott, to better ensure the health of the plantings, because sometimes the planting season, 6 months might be the wrong time to plant it.
Can we incorporate what he just said as the motion?
Yeah, is that staff comment or is that, because
That was staff's comment prior to the discussion of the conservation easement.
that's
Okay.
what I'm asking. If we say subject to staff comment, does it account for what you were requesting?
For all that stuff?
Right, and if you do that, then add the conservation easement, if you're so inclined, yes.
So what we
Okay.
could say is we move to approve,
That's-
subject to
I was
staff
trying to
comments.
break out which piece was part of what.
Staff comments, and again, so the conservation easement is a separate thing. It was
And the
not part of it.
conservation easement.
Okay, yes.
So we could say move to approve, subject to staff comments and the additional approval of the conservation easement?
Somebody take
You want to do this?
All right, board, I would move to approve subject to staff comments and the implementation of a conservation easement.
Do a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, good. Do we need to discuss the second piece then?
Yeah, it's a separate case, and this one shall be, I hope, simpler. And sorry about the complexity of that one. There were a lot of moving pieces, so.
Parking lot, right.
Right, so this next one is a special exception, and it's 2025-005-SE, and it is a special exception to permit an alternative parking surface. And that was granted originally for an area that was shown on, again, this site plan, and this would extend that to the space that we had been discussing, that 1.85 acres. And again, the applicant is here.
I'm sorry, you said this was prior to what now?
Oh, so the board had previously approved an alternative parking service over the rest of the site.
The planning commission did.
No, the
Board of Zoning Appeals.
This board,
At some
okay.
previous time.
And
previous
so,
time, okay.
you know, our ordinance basically requires an improved surface that is, you know, paved, so it could be asphalt, concrete, or there are other kinds of structured parking. This would allow something else, but, you know, the consideration is appropriate for its use. And that's why it's a special exception and not a variance.
Gotcha.
Okay. Do we have any questions for the board, or? I don't think we need to hear from you again. I think we got the gist, yeah. I think we got the gist. Okay, board discussion then. I think it's great that it's going to be a permeable surface. I think that's actually a real plus. You just don't get the kind of runoff, you don't get a whole lot of other stuff. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to spill hydraulic fluid. It's just, I think you're right, keeping it retained in the site is the biggest thing. So, yep.
Do I have a motion?
A motion to approve, subject to staff comments?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, and now, do we have any other cases? We have no other cases. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Oh, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
There you go,
Aye.
Kathy.
Okay, we're good. My brain is not working today. I don't know.